So now we will come to the next topic. So this next topic is what's a meeting. We have to understand what's a meeting and then its importance, its objectives, and various types of meetings. That is very important to understand. So here this is just a kind of the slide where you can see that people are sitting, probably it's a meeting and they are having some kind of conversation. What is a meeting? Now we really need to understand what a meeting is. So it is a key aspect. When we talk about meetings, it's a part of business communication, of course, and it has to do with, meeting has to do with, a business house, and business house could be national, could be international, and we're talking about professional settings again, where people gather and they discuss issues. It is not just issues, it could be conflicts, it could be any information, it could be any decision making, it could be problem solving, any problem needs to be solved, any decisions has to be taken, any plans for the future, like reasons are umpteen. And meetings are held in, either it could be held in person where people come together in a private room. There's a hall. We usually have meeting halls and meeting rooms in organizations where people come together and they meet and they talk. Or we can also have a virtual meetings whereby the people in person, if are not able to meet due to any number of reasons, then people can have an online, like the employers and the employees can have online meeting as well. And if there's a meeting is both online and offline, then we call it a hybrid meeting, whereby hybrid meeting means actually that there are few people who are available and who are already sitting there in person, and then there are others who could not meet up with the time and the place, so they are at different places. So at the comfort of their place, wherever they are, they can join in the meeting via on a digital platform. So then we say that meeting can be hybrid. So, and a meeting is always arranged beforehand, there's always a gathering of people. So the gathering of people has to be informed, there has to be a set pattern. It has to be very well documented. There has to be a very well planning to be done, and information has to be disseminated. So for the purpose of discussion, for the purpose of anything that might have come up in an organization, and because it involves a large number of people. Since it involves a large number of people, so one has to be very careful when it comes to meeting, because time, date, everything, has to be planned. And once it is planned, and then likewise, the people can be informed, and then everybody can come together and can hold a meeting in an organization. This is what we are talking about in an organization. Then if we say what is the importance, now importance of meeting could be many, because obviously we are talking about here decision making. So meeting always allows the various team members who are there in an organization to discuss various issues. It could be real-time issues, something has gone wrong in an organization. Probably people have to come together and take certain decisions, and to also solve certain issues that has just come up from nowhere. And for example, there's a product development meeting, a new product needs to be designed and new product needs to come up. So people have to plan a meeting and also decide upon the strategies. So obviously a decision has to be taken on that particular product, what needs to be done, what is the design, what is the strategies, marketing strategies, how many people are going to be involved, who would be the researchers. There's so much, so obviously decision making is a very important part of meeting. And then problem solving. So for example, if there are any challenges, unseen challenges, and then meeting also can be, meeting is a very good platform where brainstorming solutions can be done. Some solutions people can come together and solve any problem together, because for example, if there's a team, a project team might always meet up and there's a shortfall in the budget, for example, so if there's any kind of shortfall in the budget, or if there's any deadline issue, then obviously people can come together. For example, if I say that there's a Skyline Builders, and they wanted to kind of bid, they won a bid to construct a 30-story residential building, for example, then the project, we can assume that this project could have been funded by a group of private investors. So now the cost of the steel and probably the concrete has rose. For example, it has rose by say 25-30%, and due to any kind of global supply chain issues or problems. So then any labor cost that needs to be discussed, or any funds probably might have got exhausted, so meeting can be called upon. So there can be a shortfall. This is what it means when we talk about shortfalls, and then the meeting can be called upon, and obviously deadlines has to be met with. Then communication and information sharing. So meeting is also ensures, when meeting takes place, it ensures that everybody is on the same page, and all the message and all the information which is shared has to be very, very relevant. It is for the purpose, so it needs to be. And obviously one has to decide that what all has to be talked, and what are the things that needs to be discussed. All irrelevant details needs to be trimmed out. So for example, managers and the staff, when they come together and they hold a meeting, it could be to update the team on any kind of company. If the company has come up with any new policies, then that can be disseminated to all the members, any policies that has been designed. And obviously that needs to be told to almost all the members, all the employees and all the employers and all the managers. They all have to come together and they have to disseminate this information so that everybody is aware of the policies. Then collaboration and teamwork. Obviously we talk about meetings, they always encourage a kind of collaboration where everybody comes together, and the team is formed, and the members, they come together to promote teamwork, and it speaks of the teamwork, because obviously teamwork is a very important part of success of any organization, whereby the members are and the workers are on the same page. And obviously it gives an opportunity to the individuals to kind of share any ideas, any new any kind of dynamics that they have, that they want to lend, any feedback that needs to be given, any work goal is there, any direction is there that needs to be worked upon, or any set target for the company. If it is there, then everybody can come together and can meet this and decide upon how to meet the target, even if the target is very difficult. So meetings are very important. And accountability and progress tracking. So obviously regular meetings are again a very important part, that any head of the organization should always have regular meetings, because regular meetings enable the hierarchy to kind of keep a track of all the projects that the company has undertaken, and can also keep a track of the progress, how the project is going. For example, if there's a road construction that has come up, and if a company is involved in if it's a construction company, so they will keep a track, how much work, how much road has been built, what is the finances that has been involved, so there's so many things, the equipment that goes into it, the people, the laborers, there's so much, so the list is never ending. So that has to be tracked, that has to be kept, checked. So ensuring accountability and identifying any kind of obstacle. There can be many obstacles that come in the way, so that also has to be checked. So a weekly status meeting can always take place and track all the finances, all the progress, all the tasks, all the issues, and all decision makings and all problems also at the same time can be solved easily and regularly. So meetings are very important, and they should be held regularly. What is the objective? Now, what is most important objective we can say about meeting is that of course, information is the most important part, and explanation, whatever comes up in an organization, that needs to be explained, that needs to be informed to all the members, at the same pace, at the same time, and to understand what the situation is all about, because the situation needs to be discussed, and the situation could be any. It could be some kind of an emergency, it could be not an emergency, there could be some transition, there could be some changes, there could be, the reason could be so many. So to get feedback, the members also give, they give their own feedbacks, and they also, can do brainstorming. It is said that one head is better than two, and two head is better than four. So if 4 and 5 members come together and do some problem solving, and they've solved some problem together, something can really come up, something new can come up, something very interesting and very that can like instantly do away with all the problems that is existing. So obviously feedback from the members is very, very important, because obviously some very intelligent feedbacks can come not from the hierarchy, but from the lower employers and the employees. And ideas can be exchanged, and people come from varied backgrounds, they can have varied experiences, so they can also share the experiences, and obviously better decisions can be taken when experienced people come together. And when people give more ideas, then obviously chances are that things would be solved more amicably and more peacefully. And obviously members can be persuaded to bring about certain changes in themselves, not just in themselves, but also if any change has taken place in an organization, they also need to accept it and take it in their stride, because sometimes there's always a resistance, and we see that employees do not follow the employers, and there could be, that's why that there are trade unions, and there could be problems that can come up on behalf of the employees. So obviously they need to be persuaded. So that is the basic objective, to have meetings and console them. Obviously meetings are also held, any kind of conflicts, any kind of confusions, if has taken place, and any decision, obviously decision making is very, very important, and to generate a very positive attitude among the participants. So all the participants who've come together in a meeting, all the members, all the staff, all the workers, all the employees who come together, and they have a meeting with the hierarchy, have the meeting with the managers and the heads and the CEOs, we see that obviously everybody at the end of the day would be satisfied, would be satiated, and they definitely do come to a certain decision, if not in completion, if not 100%, but of course 70-60%, some kind of resolutions are made and done. So then we have various types of meetings. A meeting also can be divided on various kind of levels. There could be different levels of meetings on the basis of function. So when we talk about functionality in any professional setting, so there could be meetings to kind of give information and sharing of information, any views, any opinions that has to be taken from the various members. Then the meetings can be held. Then meetings can be held for on the basis of consultation. If there is, the consultative meetings are usually held to consult. The members needs to be consulted, and their views needs to be taken up, and their opinions are also taken up. For effective decision making. This is basically done so that a valid and a very sound decision can be taken by the hierarchy. Then for execution of ideas, obviously members can have varied and new and novice and very innovative ideas. So obviously when we have meetings, new ideas can come up and new suggestions can come up, and that can be incorporated, and then that can become a part of a kind of a part of corporate setting. And obviously the cooperation of the member is required here, because obviously meetings are being held on a regular basis. So effective dealings, how a kind of employer deals with the employee is important. And then meetings are held on the basis of on their formality, how formal it is, how structured it is. So this usually can be, when we talk about parliament, when we talk about the state assemblies, we can talk about universities at the highest level. We have the vice chancellor, we have the chancellors, we have various union managements, and union negotiations usually takes place, councils and executive bodies. So all these such meetings are very, very structured. structured, they are pre-decided, they are pre-planned, they are pre-written, you know, there's a set pattern to it, there's a date, there's a time, everything is structured. Then it could be also semi-structured meetings, like, you know, there could be small committees and small groups and councils and some voluntary organizations like NGOs and all, you know, they can come together and they can hold their meeting. So, you know, these meetings could be it could be in the form of sessions, and the sessions could be very brief and short, and not very long and lengthy ones, right? Just because, you know, some few problems of some few, you know, information needs to be shared. Then unstructured meetings, like, you know, any kind of discussions, any kind of ad hoc meetings, you know, of group of people, they can just come together, you know, randomly they can come together, and the meeting has not been pre-decided, it just took place, you know, because it was the need of the hour so demanded it. So this set of, you know, group of people can just come together and, you know, meeting can be held. Ad hoc is just for the purpose, supposedly something has come up, some important issue has come up, you know, or anything for that matter, then a meeting can be called upon. So meeting is not here. Unstructured means it has not been pre-decided, you know, there was no set date and time and people and participants who were decided upon. So meeting is just called randomly because the hour so, or the time so demanded it. Now coming up with the next topic, subtopic, which is agenda of the meeting, the planning and drafting of the minutes of the meeting, which is we call it as MOM. So now planning a meeting. So how do we really plan a meeting? So when we plan a meeting, we have to like really understand, you know, what is notice. First and the foremost word that really would cross your mind is that any meeting that needs to be planned always needs to have a notice. You know, notice is the first prerequisite, because usually it is through notice that all the members of an organization is informed, you know, that there will be a meeting. So the notice is usually passed to a set of people, to the participants, and that particular notice will also have the agenda. So we have the notice and we also have the agenda. So agenda is, you know, actually when we talk about agenda, we say that it's a list of items, you know, that is to be discussed at a very formal meeting. So all the things that we really need to discuss, so they are all itemized, they are all put down, and then one by one, in a very linear, in a very chronological, you know, order, that things are discussed. So everything is structured, everything is written. So notice is actually, you know, it's a Latin word, and it actually means knowledge. And the term is always in relation to a meeting, because when we have meetings, we also have notices, and notices actually brings you know, the knowledge. It sort of, you know, tells, you know, and conveys and gives knowledge to the people who are working in an organization that there's some meeting which is going to be held. So, and a meeting has to be held very properly, you know, only when the notice of the meeting is served to the concerned people. You know, it could be just few people, it could be many people, you know, depends, you know, what the, you know, agenda is and what is the reason that, you know, there's a notice that is going to be, you know, circulated. So whenever it is circulated, it always goes and serves to a few people or set of people. And what does the notice do? What is the function of the notice? The function of the notice is that the members are informed, you know, as to when the meeting will take place. When the meeting is, like the date, the time and the place of the meeting, and also what is the issue, what issue is going to be discussed in the meeting, and if possible, you know, respective contributions are also expected. So that is also mentioned, you know, if there is any contribution that needs to be made from the different, you know, participants. So obviously it involves all this. Then when we talk about agendas, now agendas are usually, you know, written down, because obviously as soon as the meeting is going to come up, as soon as the meeting is announced, as soon as the notice is sent to the respective participants and to the respective employees and to the managers, whosoever is responsible, then obviously the agenda has to be designed, you know, agenda has to be written. What is it all about? So an agenda could be, you know, in relation to any project. that has been undertaken by any company, by any organization. It has to do with, it could also do with financial reports. It could do with the objectives of the company, if they have to share certain objectives which has not been discussed so far. It can also do with certain status of the people. It could do with some upcoming deadlines which the company has to meet, or it could also kind of to do with any issues, or the if the team has to be called upon, certain team that has been made in an organization, and some questions and some answers needs to be discussed and to be cleared, then these are the few examples, like why and what could be the agenda. So agenda could be many in an organization, and it is always circulated in advance. It is not that it is just discussed then and there at the moment. Never. It is always circulated in advance, and the members usually know, and they are always prepared. Whatever the agenda has been is being disseminated, it has been informed, and it always has an order. This agenda always follows certain order. There has to be a chairperson to conduct the meeting. There has to be somebody who sits at the chair and conducts the meeting, and obviously it is also pre-decided who that chairperson would be. It also ensures that the matters, whatever the matter is, it is decided what matters are going to be discussed in a meeting. Everything is there. The agenda describes it. The agenda puts forward everything, and it ensures that every point is taken up. Obviously, whosoever the chairperson is, whosoever is sitting at the chair, ensures that all the points that are mentioned in the agenda is taken up for discussion, and so that nothing remains hidden, nothing remains secret, and things are out in the open, and everybody comes on a common platform and discuss upon it, and then obviously discussion takes place because some decisions has to be taken in the end. And it also facilitates, obviously there's a preparation of the minutes of the meeting also needs to be prepared, which we'll talk about in the next heading, in the next slides. And minutes of the meeting is important because that also that is also has to do with the structure, and that has to do with the documentation, that everything, it is a summary. We can say that the minutes of the meeting is a summary of all that has taken place and all that has been talked about in that particular meeting. So there are certain points that needs to be kept in mind when the agenda is drafted, when the agenda of a meeting is made. So the agenda has to be very, very clear. It has to be very explicit. It is clear means there should not be, nothing should be unclear. Nothing should be such that one is not able to comprehend. It has to be very, very comprehensive, and it has to be in very clear words, and the language has to be very simple. And it should not have very difficult language so that people are not able to understand. Very clear, very explicit, and it should be in the form of a summary, right? It should not be point wise, but it should be in a summary form. And all the routine items has to be put in first, and then the other important matters needs to be put at the end, so that gradually one comes down to the least important to the most important. And all the matters and anything that has to be placed needs to be that needs to go into the agenda. Nothing should be, actually it is believed that nothing, and it is also kind of taken into account that nothing should be left out. And obviously all the items that are included must be within the scope of it should not be outside the scope of the meeting. It means that something irrelevant should not be included, so that members are lost and they really do not know what to do and what to talk about, because obviously agenda has to be kind of disseminated much earlier, prior to the meeting, so everybody is aware. So let there be no new things coming up, so that people are not able to really kind of streamline themselves and come to a certain decision regarding unseen and unstructured topics and anything. So at last minute, last juncture, nothing new should come up. So agenda should be all written and pre-decided and pre-written. all items written in the agenda, obviously it has to be written in the scope of the notice that is calling for meeting. So obviously the notice needs to incorporate the agenda is what it means. Then obviously here it is just one example of the agenda has been given here, that if an agenda has to be made, a notice has to be given. So there's one example of how the agenda is mentioned, the way that it is documented, the way that it is written, and how the notice can be passed on. What is the format of the notice. So the notice, like for example, that you can see here, that ABC Motors India Limited Lucknow has sent in the notice has been sent by the secretary, and it is given, and the notice mentions and says that the notice hereby is given to all the members, means all the members are involved, that there will be a next quarterly meeting of the board of directors on so and so date in the boardroom. So you see that there's a date, there's a venue, and there's a time, and whosoever is sending it, and also the agenda, that you can see that the minutes, because obviously the minutes of the meeting that last has taken place has mentioned that there will be an upcoming meeting again. So that is mentioned here in the notice. Then matters arising from the minutes, the last minutes, that are also mentioned. Any financial irregularities that has taken place, that is also mentioned. This would be the agenda actually of the meeting. And obviously it also has the agenda that there's a appointment of any a committee. The committee would be appointed for employees welfare. So obviously the agenda makes it very clear to all the employees that there would be a new committee coming up, and that this new committee will be selected in the meeting. And anything else as per the chairperson, that can always come up, and then the date of the next meeting will also be decided upon. So obviously meeting, whenever the meeting takes place, there's always a notice, and notice makes things very, very clear. It sort of specifies everything. Now what is it? Now define the purpose. So what is the first step? The first step is obviously meeting, where it is held, the agenda is there, the participants are also decided who will be attending the meeting, and based on their roles and responsibilities. Then time and location is always there, and distribute pre-meeting material. So any material that needs to be distributed beforehand, any document, anything, any review report or any financial report, anything, that needs to be distributed is usually distributed beforehand. And of course, now setting the agenda. So how, the agenda is set. So, there's a format to it. So agenda also follows a certain format. So now what is the format? So it could be starting with the title. Now, of course, a title has to be given to the meeting, so give a very clear title. What is the purpose? Title has to do with the purpose. Ki jab meeting ho rahi hai, to whatever the purpose of the meeting is, that goes into the title, right? And the title reflects the purpose and nothing else. So the example is like monthly sales strategy meeting. So here it is very clear to all the employees that in the meeting, what would be decided upon, what would be talked about, the monthly sales, and what would be the strategy, to kind of improve the sales. Right? Then date and time. So date and time is usually mentioned, very well specified. That is important because obviously the employees need to know what time and what date they need to come. Location has to be specified, the venue has to be mentioned, and obviously location also has to do with, the venue has to do with either it is online or there's a virtual link to it, and venue could be any, it could be a Zoom meeting, and if it is online, and there are many other online platforms. So, and how it is mentioned, like location is conference room 3 or Zoom meeting. So it's like very well specified. Then objectives are also mentioned in the agenda. Also needs to have the objective, needs to have what would be the expected outcome from the meeting. So for example, if the sales is going to be discussed, the performance of the sales of a company is going to be discussed, and strategies to increase the revenue and the sale of the product, then what are the upcoming new launches if there are any, so it's already mentioned. The objectives are usually mentioned, that these are the objectives and what is going to be expected from the meeting. Then items. Now the list of topics. Item has to do with the topics that needs to be discussed. So as is very clear from here, that it could be the review of the last month's sales performance, discussions of any strategies that needs to be taken by the company to increase the sale, and obviously advertisement policies needs to be discussed, and how obviously it can things the products, if new products are going to come up, what is going to be the design and how it is going to be put forward to the people by and large. And then allocation of sales targets, and for the next quarter everything is always mentioned. The topics are usually mentioned, and the time limit is also there. The agenda also sets the time limit, that the meeting will be planned for 1 hour, the meeting will be planned for 2 hours. So the people, and so all the members of the organization, all the employees of the organization are prepared well in hand, and they have to kind of know that okay, there would be 2 hours or 3 hours that would go into it, and so things can be likewise decided upon, and also they have to set their own lives. So obviously things can go in the right direction with a set agenda, with a set time, with a set date, with a set location, with the set objectives and all the topics that needs to be discussed. Minutes of the meeting. So obviously people are assigned beforehand, whosoever. There could be 1 or 2 people, one person can keep a track of the time, and the other person, 2 people, can come together and also prepare the minutes of the meeting. And it is a very official document, it is a summary, and it speaks of all that has been going on, in the meeting, in the discussions, any decisions, any actions that has been taken, whatever that has transpired in a meeting goes into the MOM, in the minute of meeting. So, and it is, and one person is always, as I said, is usually authorized, and all discussions can be put into writing, all deliberations can be put into writing, all decisions that are taken in, everything is documented, everything is written, and that is why MOM is a very important document. And drafting, how it is drafted, so it is a kind of it requires, it's a piece of paper, right, and it could run into many pages, or 2 to 3 to 4 pages, or it usually can be because obviously when we talk about the minutes of the meeting, because obviously if there could be a lot of if the meeting is for 2 hours, if the meeting goes for a very the length of the meeting goes to kind of 2 to 3 hours, then obviously the length of the pages would also increase, because obviously all that has been going on in the meeting is always put down in the summary form in MOM. So it starts with first the heading. So the heading has to do with the date, the time, the location, and all the attendees, the people who are present, and as well as the people who are absent. So the title is whatever the title, the topic, that whatever the purpose, title has to do with the purpose. So sales strategy meeting. Then we have the date, we have the time, the location is also mentioned, where the people are meeting and who all are the attendees, and also the people who are absent are also mentioned. And then we have the agenda is there. Agenda has to be fully discussed, or the topic needs to be penned down in the MOM with respect to the agenda. Then also there has to be a summary, whatever has been discussed. As I just said, everything that has been discussed in the meeting goes into the MOM, goes into the minutes of the meeting, and a brief summary has to be taken up. But this summary has to be very clear, and it has to be very concise, and contractions needs to be taken, contracted words needs to be taken. It should not be very lengthy, but very to the point. And like for example, sales performance review is there, and sales team has discussed that there would be some 5% increase in the revenue or whatever, and of course the focus is on highest performing products. Everything will goes down into writing. Then decision made, whatever the decisions, whatever the decision has taken place, whatever the agreements has been made or reached during the meeting, that also has to be penned down, that also has to be written down, because the team also decides if there is any new launch in the market, any campaign that needs to come up that would target the young professionals and the young leaders. So obviously it all goes down as record. It is a form of not just summary, but it is also a form of record of what all that has gone on in a meeting. Action items is the list, whatever the actions, who is responsible for the various tasks, because now there'll be an allocation of tasks, there'll be allocation of duties, and then there would be deadlines to be followed and to be, obviously every member would be aware of. So that also goes down. So this could be a kind of an act of remembrance. So MOM could be an act of remembrance, that of course, one can just turn back to the pages and one can be reminded of all that has gone on in a meeting. So it's a very important document, and it has to be kept, and it has to be preserved. And so task could be like, for example, task action items could be like develop a new social media strategy. So task can be given to various members. For example, then Sarah Lee, for example, is a working member. She can be given a task to do certain, and then the deadline is also given to her. So it is within the meeting that everything is decided upon, and then that goes down into writing. Then next meeting, so whenever the next meeting is going to be decided or scheduled, that also has to be penned down, that also has to be written in MOM. For example, in the last line says that the next meeting will be held on November 1, 2024. Also the time is mentioned. This can be very tentative. It cannot be that there's no surety to it, but of course, in a nutshell, a date and a venue definitely should be decided upon, and that can be later changed as per the convenience of the members. Then end of MOM, there's always a brief summary of the meeting's outcome. So usually the meeting's outcomes, as said, that is mentioned in the agenda, and outcomes are usually expected. So now one sees that the agenda has the meeting outcomes, and what is the actual outcome here. So one can compare and contrast from the agenda to the MOM. So the MOM will actually have the real outcomes, the real consensus that we say can be seen here in MOM. So this is here just an example as that has been given, like just a format rather of the notice. There's a set format for notices. There's always a format that needs to be followed. Every organization follows this format, and also, for example, how the agenda is written. Agenda of the 4th meeting of the board of directors held at the head office of the company, and the date and the venue is mentioned, and all that has gone on, and all that will take place. Anything that is going to ensue, anything is will happen, any appointment of the directors. See, it is mentioning here, they mention here that confirmation of the appointment of the directors will take place. So obviously here in this meeting, agenda is already decided that there will be an appointment of the directors, then there will be an appointment of the managing directors of the company. So probably there's a new company that is coming up, or a new branch of a particular company is coming up, which is Pitambar Cement Industry. So probably they're coming up with a new branch, and then the managing director has to be appointed, the new director has to be appointed. Then also there will be an accommodation for the branch office at Lucknow. Accommodation means obviously accommodation has to do with, now they will have to search for the new venue. Then the date for the next meeting, and any other matter with regard to the permission of the chairman. Whatever at the end, it is up to the chairman, like if he needs to bring in any other matter, that is also mentioned in the agenda. So you can understand that agenda has drafted, all that will take place in a meeting. Now here you can say that accommodation for the branch office at Lucknow. What does it say? It actually means that the secretary has reported that now supposedly a new venue has to be taken up and has to be bought. So now 5 rooms have been bought at Suraj building, in Lucknow. And they are not bought actually, but they're taken on rent. And the rent that will be paid is 10,000 rupees per month. And then the branch manager had examined this place and it is suitable for the purpose, and that it has been rented out, and this new branch office will have its office at this particular place. So we see that the minutes of the meeting, now this is a format for the minutes of the meeting. So minutes of the meeting always mentions, always has, the format goes like the address is there, the time is there, the date is there, people who were mentioned, it mentions people who were present like the chairman, the director, who were absent, then confirmation of the meeting of the last minute was held, like meeting was, it has to be confirmed that the meeting was held on so and so date, then confirmation of the appointment of directors, whether it was made or not, appointment of the managing director, whether it was made or not, and who was made the managing director is also mentioned in the meeting. So this is how it goes, like minute of the meeting.